to learn the good, the bad, and the reality of the nomadic lifestyle, click the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Click the bell notification. Okay, so winter is coming upon us. We're mid-October right now, and this appears to be the first winter that we'll be able to be snowbirds. We've tried it 2 other winters, and both times we had to go back to Missouri in wintertime. But a lot of people just assume that you're going to get to go and be a snowbird. And I did too, before I came out here. Fortunately, we did a test run before we started our adventure in the winter. We were close to home in case something went wrong, we could go back to the house. But we stayed out in the campground for over 2 weeks in February. We're right now at Lubbock, Texas. The average December low in Lubbock, Texas, 28 degrees. You know, that's very survivable for a nomad. The high, I think, is 58. Again, very comfortable temperatures. Last night got down to 37, but the daytime highs get up in the 70s right now, here in October. We're in city parks, and in these city parks, you get free electric and free water. And they don't shut off the water, so that's really cool. You know, in the wintertime in Missouri, they shut off the water. You know, we can turn on the heater at night. We got a little 250 watt heater. Uses very little electric. First of all, I really want you, if you're going to become a nomad, to be realistic. You know, I talk about in the intro of my video, the good, the bad, and the reality. I want you to really focus on the reality of the nomadic lifestyle. You are going to be in wintertime temperatures. At some point in your nomadic lifestyle, you are going to be cold. Even if you get to snowbird every year, you're going to be cold at some point. I remember 2 years ago, we were in Florida and it snowed. And in Texas, that same year, it snowed. Right on the Texas-Mexico border, you can get pretty far south and still get snow. But our first year as a nomad, we were still in the pop-up camper, and we had this vision that we would be snowbirds. Well, we ended up in October. We were in Florida. That's where we're going to spend the winter. And we had to go back to Missouri. We had an emergency. We had to go back to Missouri. And we ended up staying in Missouri until December. So from October to December, we were in Missouri in a pop-up camper. The coldest it got down to was 27 degrees. Here's the thing. I mean, it cost us a fortune of propane. But we also was parked outside someone's house, and we were plugged into their electric. We had to pay rent, of course. Taking showers, because we still had the shower tent back then. We had to take showers out in the shower tent. We had to set up a heat lamp so we could keep the shower tent warm. I brought the water heater inside the shower tent. We got this on-demand propane water heater because it produced enough heat to help keep the shower tent warm. We wrapped the shower tent in a tarp. I mean, we were doing everything we could to take a shower in the cold. Well, we got through that, and like I said, we went to Florida that year with pop-up, but everything filled up, so we were late. And we found one spot that we could stay at. It was a hunt camp in Apalachicola, Florida, which is northwest Florida. So we're still in the northern part of Florida. Everything else was full. And like I said, it snowed that year, and most of the winter, it was, I think the highest ever got was, you know, in the 50s. Most nights were down into the freezing range. Well, then the second year we had same thing. We had to go back to Missouri for another emergency. Our second year, this time we had the truck camper, and we were in a lot better shape this time. The truck camper is insulated, well built, and I designed it for winter on the inside. Not so much the outside the first winter, but we fixed all that. We had 2 carbon monoxide detectors, propane stove that we ran. The carbon monoxide detector went off twice. One time because the window closed on us, and the second time was because the burners got dirty and was producing yellow flames. They started shutting water off the 1st of December, so you can't even go anywhere to find water. Even at the gas stations, they didn't have any water. Everything was closed up. I'm glad we were in Missouri because I made it through about mid-December, and I decided this wasn't going to work. So I went over to my mother's house while Carolyn took care of her emergency, and I was able to park in front of my mother's house, I don't know, for a month, and I was plugged into her electric. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to manage it at the cold climates because there was no water. I mean, we'd have been all right with the propane heat, but the water was a real struggle. As a matter of fact, it got so cold that even the town itself, one of the pipes froze. And so even Mom's water got shut off for a day because it was so cold. So imagine trying to be a nomad. And then you had this huge problem of water freezing. You know, I would store buckets of water in the camper. Now the upper portion of my camper, it's hard to explain, but the upper portion of the camper is where I sleep. Down at the bed of the camper is the storage. Well, I store water under the bed. So the top part of the camper is very warm. That's all I'm heating up. The bottom part gets very cold. And so you had to figure out a way to keep at least one bucket of water up high enough so it wouldn't freeze. I got this curtain that separates the entrance of the camper from the living space. So I take my shoes off. Well, one morning I got up and my shoes were frozen to the floor of the camper, of the truck. And I had to actually chip it out of there to get them out, get my shoes on. Another complication that I had to solve was I had jugs of water. I had 1 gallon jugs of water, drinking water. And I just stored them. And what would happen is when at nighttime you turn the heat down, that water would get cold. And then in the morning when you wake up, you turn the heater back on. Well, those jugs of water would cause condensation. And it ended up causing so much condensation that the water was dripping down into the cracks of the camper and caused a major damage on my camper. So you got to think about condensation. The other thing you're going to want to do is make sure that all your walls are insulated. I'm not going to get into conversation about how much propane produces water. It doesn't produce as much as everybody thinks it does. But again, when you turn on your heater in the morning, hot against cold, I mean, it's going to produce condensation. So you get all this condensation on anything that's exposed to the outside. So we had our cab over. It wasn't insulated. And so when I would turn on the heat in the morning, that wall on the cab over would condensate. So I had to insulate that. Now that everything's insulated, I don't have a condensation problem at all. So these are some of the difficulties of Nomad in the winter. And please, again, don't expect that you're going to get to be able to live in warm climates all the time as a nomad. Thanks for watching. Quick like if you like the video, and happy travels.